child is reading more fluently and you're feeling that excited urge to rush to the bookstore for chapter books, watch this video first. If you're looking at other kids carrying around big kid books and wondering if your child is falling behind, or just trying to figure out the right time to transition from picture books to the longer reads, this video is for you too. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that might completely change how you think about your child's reading journey. I'm sharing 4 reasons why rushing into chapter books could actually be holding your young reader back. Hey, if we haven't met, I'm Kim with Not Consumed Ministries. We help families grow in faith so that they can live not consumed by life. As a former teacher, an early childhood specialist, and a homeschool mom of 4, I've seen a lot of kids rush into chapter books and a lot of parents who thought it was a good idea. Some of what I'm going to share today might challenge common beliefs about early reading, but I promise it could change your child's relationship with books forever. Stay tuned until the end too, because I've got a free printable book list for you, and I know you're gonna love it. Picture this scene with me. A student sits with a book, carefully sounding out each word, when suddenly something clicks. The words begin to flow and their face lights up with pure joy. It was my absolute favorite thing about teaching first graders, and never got old as a parent either. But here's where we often make a well-intentioned mistake. As soon as our kids read a few books, we deem them as fluent readers and begin to push for more. I've had so many first graders walk into the classroom with a chapter book that their parents encouraged them to get from the library or bought them from the store as a reward for learning how to read. What? We can't jump from Bob books sounding out at and suddenly read even the smallest chapter books like Frog and Toad. I understand the impulse though. We want to nurture progress and challenge our kids and help them to grow. However, what I've learned through years of teaching and homeschooling my own kids is that this moment actually calls for something very different. Instead of rushing forward, it's time to build a solid foundation. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't skip the foundation just because you're excited to see the walls go up, right? When we rush into chapter books too early, we sacrifice 4 crucial elements of reading development. Let's break these down one by one because understanding these could save your child's reading journey. Number 1, chapter books can sacrifice fluency. Fluency isn't just about reading fast or recognizing words. It's about developing that smooth, natural flow that allows your child to truly comprehend what they're reading. Think about learning to play a musical instrument. You don't jump from Twinkle Twinkle Little Star straight to Mozart. Those simple pieces that we learn build finger strength, muscle memory, and confidence. Reading works the same way. Every time your child reads an easy book successfully, they're building neural pathways that make reading more automatic. When we push children into chapter books too early, we often sacrifice this critical fluency development. Think about it. When a child is constantly struggling with complex text, sounding out difficult words, or getting lost in long paragraphs, they're using all of their mental energy just to decode the words. That means there's nothing left to actually understand and enjoy the story. Reading specialists recommend that 75% of what your child reads aloud should actually be review or practice material. That means books that they can read comfortably and fluently. We're quick to put away a book as soon as our child has sounded out all of the words. Resist the urge to do this because they need practice to develop fluency. Additionally, 1/3 of all reading should be below your child's current reading level. That's another thing we parents are guilty of messing up. We keep giving harder books because we believe our child has already mastered the easy ones. And that could be true if you're measuring mastery on their ability to sound things out or to call out the words. But true reading is much more than this. These easier books serve an essential purpose. They build the fluency required to truly comprehend higher level reading. When children read books they're already comfortable with, they're developing automatic word recognition, building reading confidence, strengthening comprehension skills, learning to enjoy the reading process, and even creating positive associations with books. Remember, having a child to read harder books before they've developed strong fluency is like trying to run before you can walk. It often leads to stumbling, frustration, and sometimes even a reluctance to read at all. By the way, this is true even if it was their idea to read that chapter book. I've seen kids beg and plead because they're convinced that they're ready, or they think that picture books make them look like a baby. If this is your child and you've been fighting this for a while, get some simple chapter books and allow them only after your child has read several books below their level or books that they've already mastered for practice. So how can you tell if your child's fluency is being sacrificed? Watch for these signs: choppy word-by-word reading, loss of expression while they're reading, difficulty remembering what they just read, a resistance to reading time, or anxiety about reading out loud. The good news is that building fluency doesn't require special programs or techniques. It simply requires giving children plenty of opportunities to read books that feel comfortable and enjoyable to them. Number 2, chapter books can sacrifice quality. tell you a secret. Many early chapter books are actually poor quality literature. In fact, thousands of low quality chapter books are rushed to market annually, and most of those are just plain junk. Think about classic chapter books like Charlotte's Web or Where the Red Fern Grew. These weren't written for first graders. They're complex, beautiful stories crafted for older children who are ready for deep themes and rich vocabulary. But instead of waiting until children are ready for these quality books, publishers flood the market with simplified, often poorly written alternatives. Don't fall for it. What makes these books problematic? They usually have simplified, repetitive vocabulary that doesn't challenge readers. You'll find basic, predictable plots that don't develop critical thinking and flat characters that don't encourage emotional intelligence. There's also limited higher level literary devices, language structures, and themes. Remember, just because a book is marketed for your child's age or reading level doesn't mean it's actually worth reading or that it's even appropriate. Remember that our world is driven by marketing and publishing companies who are racing to create early chapter books so that they can meet the perceived demand and make money. Let's compare the two. A quality early reader is going to have rich, varied vocabulary, well-developed characters, meaningful themes, engaging plot structure, and professional illustrations that actually support comprehension, as well as natural language patterns. Marketing-driven early chapter books are going to have a limited and repetitive vocabulary, very stereotypical characters, superficial plots, formulaic writing, basic or rushed illustrations, and artificial language patterns. The impact of poor quality books goes beyond just wasted time. When children consistently read low quality literature, they miss opportunities to develop rich vocabulary and don't learn complex sentence structures. They often fail to develop critical thinking skills and may even develop poor writing habits. Number 3, chapter books can cause kids to miss good picture books. When we rush into chapter books, we miss out on so many amazing picture books, and this is so sad. Some of the best books ever written are picture books. There's a common misconception that picture books are baby books, and this couldn't be further from the truth. Many picture books are sophisticated pieces of literature with complex storytelling and rich vocabulary and layered meanings that develop critical thinking skills. The best part is they offer some incredible benefits without the overwhelm of long paragraphs and even chapters. Picture books can include advanced vocabulary words, complex sentence structures, sophisticated themes and messages, multiple plot layers, visual literacy development, artistic techniques that enhance storytelling, and cultural and historical context, which is so cool. When we rush kids into chapter books, they miss out on this rich literary experience and on the opportunity to develop these skills. You might be surprised to learn that picture books are written at a higher reading level than early chapter books, especially those low-quality mass-marketed ones. They tackle complex topics in accessible ways and use illustrations to add layers of meaning to the text. Here's a fun fact. Picture books often contain 40% more rare words than early chapter books. Another thing I really love about picture books and don't want my kids to miss out on is the illustrations. Some of the most beautiful illustrations are found in these books. The illustrations in quality picture books aren't just decorative either. They're an integral part of storytelling, and they help kids to make predictions, understand context clues, develop inference skills, and build emotional intelligence, as well as connecting with the characters and the more complex concepts. I'm not saying that there's never a place for chapter books, only that you don't want to rush into them so that you don't miss out on all of this goodness. All right, there's one more thing to consider. Number 4, chapter books can be inappropriate. This is perhaps the most crucial point, and it's one that keeps me up at night as both an educator and a mom. Early chapter books can lead to mature content exposure very quickly. When children start reading chapter books too early, we create a dangerous domino effect. They begin with simple chapter books at age 6 or 7, then quickly progress through early chapter book series, and by 8 or 9, they've outgrown early chapter books, which causes them to move into middle grade books while they're still in elementary. By 3rd grade, they're reading young adult content. And while a child may be able to decode the words in a middle grade book, they are not ready emotionally for the themes in that book. They're probably lacking important life skills and experiences that they need to understand the context. Inadvertently, they could be exposed to mature topics before they're ready to even process them. This is true even for Christian books. It's not the content itself that's necessarily inappropriate, it's just that younger kids aren't ready to handle this content. In elementary, kids are thinking about family relationships and friendships and simple problems, but Chapter books written for young adults are dealing with identity and romantic relationships and complex emotions. Third graders are not ready for this. The consequences of this kind of rushed progression can lead to anxiety about situations that they're not ready to process and a misunderstanding of social dynamics. Kids might also lose the opportunity to grow in age-appropriate experiences, skipping important developmental stages in their reading comprehension. I would tell my kids this: just because you can read it doesn't mean you should. Okay, so now that we have a solid why for not rushing into chapter books, let's break it down into a simple plan. Don't worry about grabbing your pencil either. I've got all of this typed out for you in a free printable that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So here's what reading progression looks like at different ages and stages. Let's start with pre-readers. This is before kids start sounding things out. This will be typically between ages 0 and 6. You want to focus on building strong foundations with picture books at this age. Choose books that are rich in vocabulary and have engaging stories. Read together daily, discussing stories and enjoying those illustrations. Focus on concepts of print, such as how to hold the book or where to find the title, and which way the text flows. You'll also want to focus on phonemic awareness as you read together. Pick out picture books that match your kids' interests. Okay, early readers. This is when your kids start sounding things out, somewhere around ages 6 to 8. Continue enjoying interest-driven picture books together and independently. Find solid beginning readers for practice. I've got a list of those that I'll link in the comments. And read books at your level about 70% of the time and below your level about 30% of the time. All right, developing readers. This is once your kids become fluent in the beginning reader stage, somewhere around ages 8 to 9. Continue enjoying picture book, looking for more advanced storylines and vocabulary. Explore different genres such as history and science. Assign new review books daily until you move to the bridge book, which we'll talk about in a minute. Make sure you're getting your 70-30, balancing new challenges with the comfort read. Focus on comprehension and enjoyment, and introduce those bridge books when appropriate. Now, you won't find bridge books labeled at the library or the store, but they're super important. Bridge books create a natural transition between picture books and full chapter books. They typically have more text than a picture book, but still include illustrations. They have shorter chapters or sections that feel manageable, and they have clear breaks in the text for natural stopping points. They have supporting pictures that help with comprehension, and most importantly, age-appropriate vocabulary and theme. An example of these books would be something like Henry and Mudge books. My kids also loved Frog and Toad books and Amelia Bedelia. Let's move to the advanced readers. These readers are fluent and have strong comprehension. It's going to be like age 10 or so before your kid gets to this stage. In this stage, it's still a good idea to maintain access to quality picture books. I'm surprised at how often my adult children pick up great picture books. You want to guide students to choose content-appropriate books regardless of their reading level. Focus on developing critical thinking skills, discuss the themes and messages in the books that you're reading, and allow natural progression to chapter books as they're ready. If I had to guess, you still might have some questions, so let's talk about a few common ones. First, what about gifted readers? This is one of the most common reasons that people push their kids ahead, but almost all readers level out. Just because children read early doesn't make them gifted. But remember, even advanced readers benefit from the mix of reading levels. They might be able to read advanced material, but it doesn't mean they're emotionally ready for the content. Even if your friends are letting their 8-year-old read Harry Potter, I still recommend you focus on finding challenging picture books and sophisticated illustrated text that maintain age-appropriate themes until they're at least 9. There's still plenty of time. Won't they get bored with easy books? The perception we give our kids about books will influence them. So watch how you categorize books. Quality picture books are rarely easy. They often contain complex vocabulary, sophisticated themes, and nuanced storytelling. So don't put them in the wrong category. Of course, you won't want them to keep reading Bob books forever. The key is choosing high-quality books that engage your child's interest while maintaining appropriate content. How do I know when my kids are ready for chapter books? Look for these signs of true readiness: strong fluency in reading picture books, good comprehension of complex stories, emotional maturity to handle longer narratives, natural interest in longer books, an ability to remember story details across multiple reading sessions. So how do I implement this? Let me give you a few quick tips. First, keep a variety of books available at different levels. Allow kids to freely choose books that are interesting to them. Don't label books as too easy or too hard. Take time to read together, discussing stories and enjoying the pictures. Then focus on comprehension and enjoyment rather than just progression. This is a really key thing that people miss. Before we wrap up, let me remind you about the free printable guide that I mentioned. It includes a reading progression guide and age-appropriate book recommendations, including picture books and chapter books. This isn't an all-inclusive list, and you can find many lists like this one. Ours is unique because it is completely Christian, giving you ideas to help your family grow in faith. Remember, there's no race to chapter books. Our goal isn't to have the most advanced reader in the co-op. It's to raise a lifelong reader who truly loves books. Those picture book years are precious and fleeting, so let's enjoy them while we can. If this video helped you feel more confident about your child's reading journey, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other parents who might need this message. Drop a comment below with your favorite picture book to read with your kids. I'd love to add to my favorites collection, and I'm sure that others will too. Happy reading, and remember, you're doing a great job. I'll see you in the next video.